My Lisa 2.5 suddenly powered off when I was using it, and I was unable to get it to power back on. After much diagnosis, I figured out, I think, what's going on. So let's take a look at how the power control in this system works. On the I/O card is a COP 421 microcontroller. This was the first really commercial microcontroller. It's a little 4-bit guy. And the power button is connected into this. It also has the real-time clock. I think it does something else, I can't remember. But this will read the power button, detect if the computer is already on or not, and if it's not, it sends a signal back out on which pin is it? On is this pin on the I/O card, which will then go in on this pin on the motherboard, which is here. It comes up. It has a pull up resistor. It gets something I haven't figured out, pulls it to ground as well. There's a capacitor, and then it goes on from connector 3 on the bottom side of the motherboard into the connector and turns on a solid state relay in the power supply to turn on the main part of the supply. There's a 5-volt, they call it a filament supply, that just runs all the time. So I'm checking things, and I'm fortunate that I can compare to this working 210 motherboard that doesn't have any battery damage. And I was able to at least figure out this much of the diagram. My 2.5 motherboard has battery damage, and I've repaired some of the eaten away contacts with some copper tape. And let me get this in shot. So this is the side of this resistor that should be going to the 5-volt rail. The 5-volt rail is this contact. And you can see it's not very good. If I touch on the via right behind it, it's good. So I think my problem lies with this guy. If I really stab on it, no. Yeah, so I'm going to replace this piece of tape. With the tape removed, you can see how lousy this contact is now. Anywhere it's black, there's no gold left, or copper, whatever it is. So let's get some new tape. This is the tape I got. Pay more attention to detail in your life. And one thing that was important is that the adhesive on this is conductive as well as the tape. It's not too difficult to find copper tape, but to find copper tape with conductive adhesive, you got to look just a little bit more. So I'll put some of that on there and cut it to the right shape. The way I do this is just get a piece of tape and then I start trimming it with just kitchen scissors till it's the right size. I don't try and stick it, trim it, and then remove the excess. Then I'll get a little corner of it stuck to a screwdriver, peel the backing off, and then I can stick it down. This makes it a lot easier to work with because it's very thin and you can crease it. It'll stick to itself. So now I'm gonna put that guy on there. All right, that's stuck on there now. One thing you have to be careful of is you fold, fold it up over the edge. You have to trim it because, like, this is a 5-volt rail. So if that wraps around to the other side and touches the other contact, that's not going to be good. You do also want to make sure that's stuck on there really good so that it doesn't fall off and get wedged in the card edge connector. So I'm going to trim this, replace this one too that was looking a little questionable, and then we'll put the system back together. That's much better. Okay. I guess one other point you might notice, MEM2's connector is conspicuously absent. There's something else wrong with this motherboard where if any RAM is in this slot, it makes the whole RAM bus not work and the system won't start. I was fussing and fussing and fussing with it. I removed the connector because I was wondering if there was a broken trace underneath of it, but everything looks fine. I was getting more and more frustrated. Then my friend Ian pointed out, hey, you've got that AST 2 meg RAM card, but it's not fully populated. Just fully populate it and put it in MEM1. So that's what I did. It was the easy path out. I didn't fix it. So yeah, I think now I'm ready to put the whole bunch of little screws back together and get it looking more like this card cage. Its thing lives over there, so do that. Might find this kind of neat too. Those of you in the Mac 128 collecting community might know that the early systems actually had Apple branded chips, but they were kind of unreliable. And in my 210, I actually have two cards that are populated with Apple branded RAM chips. Some of them Motorola, some of them Mostec. See, those are 83. These guys have a date? I don't see one. Is there a date on anything else? 83. So, knock on rock. Both of these still work. One thing I don't have that I wish I did was a ceramic 68,000, but oh well. Can't even see it easily when it's in the system anyway, since it's on the back side. Well, I guess the I/O card faces one way and the CPU card is the other way around. So there's my 210 card cage put back together. I'll get that out of the way. To get the motherboard out, you have to take this completely apart. So get working on that one now. As with most things with many screws holding them in to cross a big flat assembly, I like to pick a corner, and then start filling in and not really tighten everything. And then when I'm done, go back and retighten everything. That way you don't have to stop, re-loosen a bunch of screws, get angry. And then just one thing to keep in mind on this, the card cage screwing down actually retains part of the motherboard, so don't pay attention to where those screws are, and don't put any in, because then you'll have to take them back out. Here's the 2 meg AST RAM card I use in this system. Show it now, because once it's installed, it's a little harder to see. Okay, that's all reassembled. Let's see what we get. Stuff in the way. Hey! That's a lot better. The Lisa has unique zero insertion force connectors on the expansion bus. They work by pulling this metal rod out, then you turn it, and you can see, hopefully, this will focus, that it spreads the pins. So then you can just take your expansion card, slot it in, turn this, and this won't go back unless the card is fully seated. And now the card is installed. That way you don't have to pull the whole card cage out of the system to add expansion cards. You just pop the back off. One other tidbit, that whenever you're working on one of these, the covers, the front and rear cover, have interlocks on them, and I've found that a Q-tip is actually the best way to keep the switch closed, because it wedges in there and stays put, and it's also not conductive. You should be able to hear it click the switch as you screw the cover back on. The original Lisa mouse has this kind of unique connector on it. It doesn't have screw terminals. It's got little clips on the top and the bottom, and to remove the connector you squeeze it. See how it opens it up? And it clips onto the plug on the back of the machine. Huh. That's not right. Much better.